Read the disclaimers. And please use common sense.
Salutations, denizens of the internet. I'm Firebite27 and welcome to 3DDD, or 3D Design Diary, a series of shorter length videos where I update you all on my 3D printer projects. For those of you who didn't watch those last two episodes, here's what you missed. I recently got into Metal Cardbot, and I made a carrier for all the metal cards because they're the main collectible for the toy line. And considering they do literally nothing while I'm standing the figures on the shelf with their metal card weapons equipped, I figured it would be a nice place to hold them. But it was not a nice place to hold them. Long story short, nothing about the project turned out like I wanted it to. For one, I wanted to include a dumb gear functionality so that the metal cards would be raised up when you open the lid. However, not only did that result in the metal card carrying case being capable of carrying far fewer metal cards, but the gimmick didn't even freaking work. At the end of the last episode, I said I was going to take a break from working on that project and instead focus on some other ideas. First would be weapon and armor for Savinard that would sort of replicate his look as Saber Knight, his original identity. And I actually finished that project, except the helmet that I made ended up making it look as though Big Head mode was activated. My design for the torso plate looked pathetically generic, and while the sword did come out badass, it was also both too big for the figure and it broke. However, the other project I was interested in making at the time was a metal brace. For those who don't know, this is the main MacGuffin of the Metal Cardbot series. And it's basically what the metal cards are used with. And by now, the straw man in the audience is probably asking, Ryan, if this is in the show, then it's probably got a toy. And if it's got a toy, then why, oh why, are you making your own version? Do you want to make yourself a self-insert character for this Korean kids show? And the answer is no, not really. Firstly, the reason I'm even making this in the first place is because Agabus hasn't left me with any choice. They plan on never releasing the metal brace in the US, mostly because it's quote-unquote too expensive. Secondly, if I was to make a Metal Cardbot OC, it wouldn't be a self-insert. If and when I try to make an OC for a pre-existing property, I try to work it into the lore in some respect. And I do have some cool ideas for potential Metal Cardbot OCs, but again, I'm just not interested in making a self-insert. And if I'm going to quote-unquote make my own metal brace, then I want to make it my own. And so far, I've made two attempts. The first is the Dominion brace, which I envisioned as being sort of a corruption on the idea of the metal brace. Instead of being used by a just individual to control metal cardbots and capture them, it's a prison for the worst criminal scum on Machina. Every cardbot on its playlist a criminal serving out a sentence, all carried in the hands of a disgraced former Star Guardian, infected with the Beast virus. But I'm not exactly enthusiastic about the final product. See, there's a bunch of blank space on the sides here that could have a lot of detail on it, and there just isn't, and it kind of looks boring as a result. So instead I came up with a second design, the Proto Brace, basically a human knockoff of the metal brace. Honestly, I think this might be the most detailed thing I've ever made. I really had to work my magic with Blender here in order to get all these circuits and pipes and gears molded into the final product. And in the end, I can definitely say that, yeah, this was well worth the effort. Now, sadly, this is just a prop, as I didn't leave any space for electronics in the final design. But as I've said before in every prior episode, if you think you could do better than me, I have faith that you can. And as such, all of the files for this item are on Thingiverse for free. My only request is that if you remix the files, either to create your own metal brace or to include electronics, that you repost it to Thingiverse for free with the remix feature on Thingiverse. And there's good news for all of you listening at home. Unlike the last project I made, the Proto Brace is actually a fairly simple build. It only uses 6 parts. Firstly, we have this top ring, which has all the tech details molded in. If you're wondering how I got the tech details in clear red, that's because I swapped out the filaments mid-print. For the record, please don't do this at home unless you are A, confident in your abilities, B, an idiot, or C, you're confident that you're an idiot. Next we have this middle layer which has a bunch of pipes on it. It's meant to hold the metal card in place while it's being held in the metal card slot. Speaking of, the third piece is the metal card slot. and it's what we'll be sliding the metal card into. Fourth is this laser ring that will go around about 2/3 of the metal card slot. It's really only here for color breakup, but I guess if you wanted to print out multiple copies of it, you could use it to indicate which character is in the card slot. Anyways, our fifth and sixth pieces are little pegs that will hold on any straps that you may want to use to attach this metal brace to your wrist. Now, before you assemble, you may want to sand down the edges of some of these parts because, well, if you don't, then they might not fit together. But regardless, this assembly is fairly simple and mostly friction based. You'll just want to pop in the tech detail ring onto the metal card cover, then you'll use the 3 pegs on the card cover to attach it to the card slot. Then insert your insert into the metal card slot around the edges like so, then attach the strap peg as like so to the bottom of the card slot. And that's building the proto brace. All pretty simple, huh? And now you're more than free to insert the metal cards in your collection into the proto brace. And while it definitely wasn't an intentional feature, the proto brace is big enough that it can cover up the text from the Chinese releases of the metal cards, so that's a plus. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about the proto brace. Maybe I'll do some stuff to spruce up the Dominion brace in the future so I can present it to you in its own video, since that thing is pretty cool at a first glance. But I'm more than happy with the proto brace as is. And until next time, thank you for watching. This is Firebite27, over and out.